My
No
Wi-Fi
worries.
has to, so I may need to join from a different device in a minute, but let's get going. Nice to see everybody. I hope everyone has had decent weeks so far. Thank you for all of your updates at the beginning of the week. I will be asking for how that's all gone on the group later on, so watch out for those messages. This is our first co-creation session. For those of you who've been with me before, Paul and Rowan, you'll know how this works, but basically this came from the first cohort because we recognized that actually it was really hard to find time to work on our businesses rather than just in our businesses. And there are so many things that are absolutely crucial to building a solid business that we just kind of put in the top drawer and shut it and leave it there and forget about it, and it gets dusty and we never come back to it again. And so we wanted to create some space and some time to work together on things that are going to help move us forward the fastest, right? So you can go back and look at some of those co-creation sessions. We did a LinkedIn profile audit at one point. We did a one-pager at one point, and I would urge you to go through those exercises when you have time. But in this cohort, we're going to focus on some different things. And the first thing that I want creating your perfect pitch. Now, I know that some of you are in a situation where you're at the very beginning of your journey. Some of you are further along or are looking for funding. Some of you are not. It really doesn't matter. You will still need at some point a deck that helps to explain exactly who you are, why you exist, how you operate, who your competitors are. It's not always going to be public facing. If you're not pitching for funding, let's say, then some of this stuff is going to kind of stay in your back pocket potentially. But it will help you to frame things like decks for clients, things like pitches if you need to go in and pitch for some work, things like business plans if you want to get funding from a more traditional space. These are all questions that you should be able to answer like that about your business, right? And when I was going through the accelerators, the 3 accelerators I went through, this was something that we would have to stand up and do probably 10 times a day for 10 different ideas. We were kind of forced on this treadmill of coming up with business ideas and breaking them, coming up with business ideas and breaking them. And this is the format we use to do that. And it's something that I think lots of founders probably aren't rigorous enough around. So I'm going to share with you the deck, the short deck that we created for Diversely. This is a deck that I used to win pitch, not this exact deck, but this sort of template. I used to win pitch competitions. We raised over $500,000 with this deck, actually the 44-page version of it, not this version, which is the short version. We used it to inform our one pages for sales. We used it to inform our client pitches and took information out of it for various things, even up to the point of acquisition. So it's kind of like your blueprint for everything. It's something that you really need to have. It doesn't need to be beautifully designed if you're not presenting it externally, but you do need to know the answers to these things. So I'm going to take you through this, and then the way that these sessions work is that I will ask you to switch your cameras off in about 5 minutes time. I'll give you all about half an hour to run through this yourselves, and you can do it in any way you want. If you have a deck that's currently that you need to go back and refresh and update, then by all means use that. If you want to scribble it down on some A4 sheets, whatever it may be, that's absolutely fine. If you want to start building a deck from scratch, also absolutely fine. We're not worried about design for now. We're just worried about answering these questions. Hopefully not worried, just concerned with, let's say. Right, so first of all, what's your strapline? So slide 1 is always going to be who you are as a business. What's your one thing that you do that you know you're bringing to market, right? So for us, deliver on diversity through inclusive hiring software for businesses. There you go. Hopefully that helps people to understand why we exist and at least partly how we get there, right? For this, this was our seed round. So this was our initial round. Seed round, $1 million. And then we just put our email and our address and stuff like that there. But you don't need to do that if it's not public facing. I want to go into, before we go into that, I want to go into the problem that you're solving, right? So what is the key problem that you've recognized in the market that is potentially keeping your target awake at night? And how specific can you be around that? So for us, we ended up being very specific on it. And these are all links to articles and research and papers and so on that help to outline the problem. But how specific can you be on that problem that you're solving? So what are the key things that your business solves? And try to keep it as succinct as possible, but make it as measurable as possible as well. What's wrong with the way things currently are? So as well as what the problem that you're solving, there will be solutions around it right now. They might be, I don't know, one-to-one advisory. They might be some training. They might be a tech solution that doesn't work very well. Whatever it is, what is the way in which people have traditionally been solving this problem? And then how do you plan on solving it? So what is your solution around this? And this is kind of your top line, really. What's your offer? What are you bringing to market? And then talk a little bit about how it works. Perhaps I'll drop this deck in the chat. Hey, Margot. So talk a little bit about how it works. So this is us kind of literally showing and telling. You might need 2 slides to do this. You might need one slide. And what's your point of difference? So if people are finding things really tricky to solve and they're using stuff that's outdated and doesn't really work, how are you different? And this is actually a really important aspect of any business. There is no point in copy pasting what's already out there, because how are you going to compete? So it may be that you're not different on the things that you offer, but you might be faster, you might be cheaper, you might be more compliant, you might be always on, who knows? Whatever your point of difference is to those other solutions that we talked about, the more traditional ways of working, this is where you want to start talking a little bit about that. How are you positioned to tackle this? Now, for us, this was our point of difference. We had a fully remote workforce. Myself and Hayley were very specific in our backgrounds, and we brought something kind of a perfect team, really, because I came from the commercial and communication side. Hayley came from the financial and tech side. And we had a team that was positioned around the world. So again, great from a diversity perspective, but also from a cost perspective. So who are you? What's your point of difference? What's your unfair advantage? Why would somebody choose you to solve this problem over your competitors or somebody else? This is something that you will need to know as a founder. If you're pitching to investors, you'll definitely need to understand this. But if you're not, and this is just kind of more of a business plan, then this doesn't need to be shown publicly. But this is how your pricing works. This is essentially your business model, right? How are you making it all work? How is it all stacking up? How is it going to make sense for you over time? Market analysis is again is something that is more typical when you're raising money from VCs. They will absolutely want to know that the market is big enough that you're entering and that you can capture a big enough portion of it. So again, is this something that's relevant for your business? And are you aware of it if it is? And is that market growing? And there are multiple ways of looking for this. I'm sure now, you know, we didn't have ChatGPT back then, but I'm sure now if you plug this into ChatGPT, you would get some great answers around exactly this sort of stuff. We had to rely on Google and LinkedIn and adding things up and all sorts of things. But this is a really important part of fundraising and of making sure you're entering a market that's robust enough for you to be able to capture it. Because typically businesses won't capture more than about, I mean, 5% if you're lucky, right, of any kind of given market. So you need to be able to break that down. What size is the market? What part of the market are you going to be looking at? Where, what type of people, and how much is that worth? What is your go-to-market strategy? And for anyone who isn't sure about that, it essentially means how are you going to get yourself out there? How are you going to get noticed? Do you have budget for paid ads, Google search, SEM, SEO, all of that stuff? Are you going to rely on close partnerships to get you out there? Are you going to white label your services potentially? Are you looking at more organic growth? So through your own personal brand and building content out on different platforms, which is obviously something we talk about a lot in this accelerator. What are your key ways of cutting through the noise and cutting through the market? And how are you going to do that in a way that's feasible, that isn't going to cost you an absolute fortune? You may not. For us, this was our traction over time, so we could clearly demonstrate a steep curve. You will need that if you're looking for any kind of VC, external angel investment. They'll want to know that you can keep your costs pretty low and add clients, add services, whatever it may be, in order to improve your top line. And these are just some of our clients and what our pipeline is worth. If you're using things like HubSpot, it's great because it will work this out for you. If you use HubSpot properly and you plug in, or you've got all of your stuff plugged in and you know what your contracts are worth and everything else, then this kind of thing is very easy to produce. Again, probably not going to be necessary unless you're pitching to investors, but a very, very worthwhile exercise to go through so that you understand how strong your pipeline is looking. That's something that every business needs to know, right? What's your competition and how are you different? So again, this is going back to that slide, but laying it out in a way that is going to be really easy for anybody who's looking at your solution to go, I get it. So this kind of does this and this kind of does this. You guys do the whole lot. And when you're pitching to clients or when you're talking about your solution, this is also a very, very good exercise to go through so that you can clearly say, well, yeah, Textio is an amazing solution if you want to understand your language bias in any kind of text. If you want to understand the data that sits behind that and you want to be compliant around collecting diversity data, it's not going to do that for you. That's how we help. Okay, so this part I takes some time, I know, but it's arguably worth doing. Roadmap, I'm sure you guys have an idea of what your roadmap looks like for the next 3 years, probably. Do you have it written down? And do you know how you're going to get there? And can you prove that? And then finally, what are you going to do with the money? What do you want and what are you going to do with it? Right. And again, this is if you're looking for funding. Um, but I would say this also is a great exercise for you if you're looking just to scale and to grow. What do you need to get there? We knew exactly what types of deals we wanted to get through the door, and we knew the type of team and the type of structures and resources that we were going to need to make that happen. You will also need to know that, even if you're not raising externally. The end. And then yeah, throw to schedule a meeting, check out our videos, whatever it may be. So, shall I drop this deck in the chat and then you guys can kind of flick through it? But as a summary, I would say if you can focus on the exact problem that you're solving, what's being done now to solve it, and the reason that doesn't work, what your solution is, and how that works, what your point of difference is, both from a business perspective and a personal perspective for you, the team, all the rest of it. What your go-to-market is, your competitors, your roadmap and your ask, and potentially sorry, I've got peacocks on my roof, potentially a bit more about you and your background. So the people know that they can trust you to solve this problem. Okay. Right. Before we go to cameras off, any questions around that? No, all good. Okay, right. I will drop this deck in the chat and then you guys have it and you can have a look through that as you're building and refining. And then we'll come back in and we're not gonna be able to go through everybody's deck step by step, but I think if we could get through the first couple of is and how you're different and how you're solving it, I think that would be a very good starting point. Some of the rest is going to rely on you guys obviously going away and doing a bit of research if you don't already have this stuff in your back pocket, and we can drop the updates into the Founder Sanctuary group. Okay.
Helen, I'm just going to have to jump because I've got a client call that was booked before this call earlier.
That's fine.
But I've got all the notes and I'm going to download this deck now. So thank you so much.
Perfect. No worries. Okay, cool. Okay, guys, off you go. Okay. As always with these things, you will not get the whole thing done in 30 minutes, that's for sure. But we can make a start. And the idea is that you have a kind of template or a skeleton framework that you know is best practice, and you can go away and work on that and hopefully share your progress in the group. So how did everybody get on with that?
It was really good. It felt like a mad rush to get as much done as possible, but a lot of the thinking had already been done, so I found the pressure quite useful.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And sometimes it is about that. It's about sort of having the headlines for each of those slides and then going away and getting, getting the research done, particularly for things like competitor landscape and market size and all that sort of stuff. If you don't have those numbers yet, you need to work on them, but at least, you've thought about it to this point, right? Anybody else want to share where they got to with that?
For me, it's just been really helpful to see the structure behind the presentation and sort of structure my own thoughts as a result. Because on the one hand, with my current business, I've had some headway in terms of sort of letting the business do its own thing and then suss out the market organically. But now putting some of the foundations to it, like you've done, Helen, I think it was very interesting to see how you've mapped out the forecast and the go-to-market strategy. So it's all things that are somehow in the back of my mind as a marketer as well, but I've never really applied. So
Yeah.
it's good to kind of see it in action and then think about it from an investor's point of view, even though I'm not immediately looking for funding this minute. But I think even in terms of sponsorships and the like,
Yeah.
it's very interesting to hear what someone on the other side of the table might be interested in wanting to know about the business.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, being able to demonstrate that you've thought about this, right? And that you are the expert voice in this particular space is going to help you to stand out, but it's also going to help you to build trust for future investment partnerships, sponsorships, whatever it may be. So this is why and I think also as kind of communicators and marketers, often we sort of know this stuff, right? It's kind of in the back of our minds of, we know we're going to do some partnerships and we know we'll do some campaigns and we know we'll do some events and these types of things. But actually sitting down and mapping them out is really important because it helps to hold yourself accountable to that kind of stuff and gives it a bit of structure and makes it all seem a lot more feasible. Actually, it's a lot less kind of overwhelming and scary when you've actually got a year plan, 2-3 year plan of exactly how you're going to get there and where you want to get to. Anybody else want to quickly share their thoughts about this this exercise?
Alan, just regarding the presentation, was the the design of the presentation done by yourself, or did you get a professional company to help you do it?
I've done both. So between me and Hayley, we did most of our stuff together. Hayley was an ex-consultant, so was very used to putting together PowerPoints and things. And we both did a bit, a bit of the design. I think this one was just us, but I've also hired people to do my PowerPoints for me because I literally think it's just a massive waste of time. So I have an amazing person who's based in Spain at the moment, who, if I was doing something like this again, I would chuck all of my thoughts into this kind of skeleton template that we're putting together now. I'd give her my brand colors and my brand direction, and then I'd fire it over to her. And within 2 days, I'd have an amazing presentation back for like $100 or something like that. I mean, I think there are just things that it's worth spending your time on and things that it's not. And unless you absolutely love doing this sort of stuff, I'd argue that $100 is well worth it for the pain. And also just sort of bear in mind that you will have to go back and reversion this multiple times. You'll be pulling different versions out of it for different audiences. You might make it longer, you might make it shorter. And things will also change. Obviously, the numbers are going to change, the plans are going to change, the pipelines are going to change. So if you have this kind of initial template that's really nicely designed and properly done, it's much easier to do that if you've got that in the first place.
Yeah, and I think that can sometimes make a big difference as well, can't it? The design and the look and feel of
Absolutely.
the presentation.
Absolutely. You need to look professional, completely polished at every single opportunity. 100%. There is no room for typos. Okay. So would anybody like to share, I guess, where they got to in terms of the content on this?
I don't mind sharing, Helen, if nobody's jumping in.
Yes, Margot, go for it.
But again, because I missed the beginning of,
I
sorry,
know.
so sorry, I was on a different call and it ran over. So
Don't
I
worry.
just hope that I captured the essence of the asks. And I just tried to jot down a couple of lines, so it
Yeah.
might be. Right. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm launching a kids snack onto the market that is really good for your health. So the details in terms of the problem, is it okay if I'm just doing problem quickly, or how do you want to go through this?
Yeah, I think just we kind of said, even if you can just get to problem solution, how you're different, I think would be a good start. I don't expect everybody to have all of the competition mapped out and the entire go to market. If you got that far, then I think that's a pretty good start.
Right. So the first thing, the problem. So the main problem is that 60 to 70% of UK kids' calories are coming from ultra processed foods. We know that 95% of kids in this country and across many developed countries are exceeding sugar limits, but only 10% of the kids are meeting their fiber and omega-3 needs. And in the same time, there's a public health issue, which is childhood obesity and mental health issues are on the rise. And we know that they are closely linked to we're overfed and undernourished, basically, and specifically our children. And there's data, obviously, to prove these links. So this is the main issue.
Okay. So just to stop you there,
Yeah.
if we were to sort of map that, because I know that you missed the very beginning, but if we were to, let me just open this again. What have I done with the deck? We closed it now, sorry. Try again. There we go. Okay, so if we were to map that to this format, let's say, this is the bit where you would put that. So you'd have your front page here where you'd describe who you are and what you do. This is us asking for funding. And then this is where you would put this. So what issues do our parents telling us they're facing, for example? So you would put those there and you'd make it as specific as possible. So you mentioned there's kind of data and research and stats around it. That's where you would put this, okay?
Okay.
And then the next bit is what's being done now that isn't working. And I think you mentioned a couple of those points as well.
Yeah, so basically most snacks on the current market, first of all, they're targeting babies and toddlers. So not really made for children to teens, but also the current offer is extremely high in sugar, low in fiber, and overall poor nutritional value, but
Yeah.
also very, very high in ultra processed ingredients and always containing nuts, which make them excluded from pack lunches, which is the biggest
Yeah.
issue for consumers at the moment, is what I'm sending in for after school and clubs and school lunches, and all of them that are having protein currently are containing nuts.
Yeah.
So they are they are excluded from the biggest part of the time that kids would need them in school and after school clubs.
Okay, so I think, you know, what you want to map out here is that story of what the key issue is, how it's currently not being solved, basically, the types of things that are on offer, and then what that means for the consumer, for the kids. And I think you mentioned as well around sort of like obesity levels and things like that. I would say that's a very good key problem to solve because it's very tangible, right? It's less of a sort of, oh, it's really annoying that Freddie can't take in peanut butter, whatever, for his snack. The obesity thing is far more tangible and trackable and easy to research and demonstrate.
Yeah, and that's why we don't want to go with the selling point of like, oh, we are not free, because it's not strong enough.
Yeah.
For the consumer research that we've done, nobody cares. There's only 2% of the population that has nut allergies. But if it's an add-on, that will massively increase the reasons why people would buy it. But actually, it's healthy, and thank God I can also pack it because it's not free, rather than it's not free, because it won't be a good enough selling point without the other bits addressing the public health issue.
Okay, good to know.
Yes.
And then you also go through, did you get to this point where you talk about what you're actually providing?
Yeah, so the point of difference would be nutrient dense snack family. There are portable and in small portions and allergen free. No UPFs, low sugar, guaranteed high fiber. And basically, we guarantee that all of our products will have this high fiber content, regardless of whether they're sweet or savory.
Okay.
And no UPFs for all our products.
What's UPS?
Sorry, ultra processed food ingredients.
Oh, UPF. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll switch to somebody else now, but it sounds like you've made a really good start, so that's amazing. Do you have this in deck format, or are you planning to kind of go away and build this?
I do have a very short version of this that I already
Yeah.
need to kind of send over to manufacturers, but I need to expand it to potential investors because the current deck is not talking to investors, so it's not.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So this would be a great skeleton for you to use in that case. And I think given you've made a really good start, a lot of this other stuff, like I said, is going to be much more around, the research elements of pulling together your go-to-market, pulling together your market size, pulling together your competition, and making sure that you have a very clear point of difference there that you can point to, and then obviously your ask. And how you're going to use that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Iman, I'm quite keen to hear from you because I know you're also going on a funding journey. Is Iman still with us? She's there, but she might not be there. Don't know. Okay, anybody else want to give these first few slides a go?
I can do it if you want. I've got to go at 5:30, but I can
Yeah,
do
yeah.
it.
We've only got a couple of minutes, I know, but
I found that really useful. So, especially in the competitor analysis, which I did very quickly.
okay.
So I'm not sure I've got the same order as you've got, but the essential sort of phrase that we use at the moment is I help small businesses connect technology together to help them be more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So the issues, this was the helpful bit for me, was the issues side actually. What do I hear that companies are challenged with, and what do I see in my own work?
Yeah.
Is that they're paying too much for software as a service, they're not using what they've already paid for, they've got too many platforms, none of them work together. They're paying for stuff they're not using, especially the way that these companies tend to bundle features together. It means that if there's a key feature you want, sometimes you have to pay a lot more than you really expect.
And can you drill that down into a number? Can you get to a point where you're sort of saying, companies are typically paying X% over the odds, or they're wasting this much money on a monthly basis on user subscriptions, or that's kind of what really captures people's attention. I think in the last module, for those of you, I know you probably haven't got to that yet, but in the last module, we talk about how to put together pricing strategies. And one of them is around what people potentially are losing, right? What are they losing on a day-to-day basis by not using the thing that you're providing? And if you can drill that down to a kind of on average number. These type of companies are losing $500 a month on subscriptions that aren't being used, and I could offer them this. Then
That'd be-
it's such an easy, like, oh, got it. Yeah, we are. We've got all of these things and we're not using it and all this sort of stuff. So make it as specific, like numbers on this stuff.
Yeah, thanks. I'll do that. I've got to jump off, but I would say that I think these sessions are good because I think some of us think you've got something specific, and then you go, actually, there's more. There's always more you can do, and I think that's why this
Yeah,
helps.
sorry.
It's like you can always go more, and I think certainly I need to go more specific than I think I do.
Yeah. Be as niche and as specific as you possibly can be, because that's when you're going to start talking your prospects language or your investors language, right?
That's really helpful.
Okay, Paul, I know you've got to go. No worries.
See you later.
Thank you. If anyone else would like to give this a go, I'm happy to stay on for 10 minutes and help you guys through this. But if not, I will leave you to it, and I would love to see your progress in the group.
I've got to bounce as well, but thank you so much, Helen. This has been really, really helpful and a great reminder. I really love how you frame the problem and solution in the early slides as well. So I'll be referring to the deck for some inspiration myself. Thank you for
Amazing.
sharing.
No, all good. I'm glad you're feeling a bit better. You still sound a little bit croaky.
I'll be taking the weekend to wind down and then hopefully
Good.
come back stronger and in action for next
Good.
week.
Well done for joining, and have a lovely weekend. And
Thanks, you too.
yeah,
Bye all.
thank you everyone. Take care, and
Thank you all.
for updates
you.
in the group, okay?
Thank you. Bye, guys.
All right, guys, take care.